that the only things on our planet which can truly digest plant matter are microbes. Nobody can digest plants apart from microbial communities. Mother Nature used that scientific fact in designing the digestive system of a cow. She has 3 enormous stomachs. She has rumen chock full of microbes. So the cow doesn't digest the grass herself. It's that microbial community in her 3 stomachs that break the grass for her, convert it into something digestible, and then she absorbs it and benefits from it. In order then for something else to benefit from the sunlight in the form of herbivorous animals, Mother Nature created omnivores and predators. And we human beings belong in that group. We don't have a rumen. We have one small stomach. When you swallow your food and it goes down the tube, it lands in that little stomach. And that little stomach produces hydrochloric acid. The acidity in your stomach, sometimes pH 1 when you're hungry. Very hostile environment for any microbe to survive in. So a healthy human stomach is practically microbe-free. And that makes plants indigestible for human beings.
Episode 24, and today we have Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. Dr. McBride was a medical doctor with a postgraduate degree in neurology. She practiced medicine for 8 years in neurology and neuroscience, which then led her to a postgraduate degree in human nutrition. She is the founder of the GAPS Diet Protocol. She's an author of many books, many successful books that have sold in the hundreds of thousands. She is a healer, and she has been helping thousands of people reverse very chronic illnesses, anything from psychological, ADHD, autism, to physical degeneration. And in this interview, we go really deep into her protocol and into the importance of diet. She starts off really going into the difference between veganism, vegetarianism, and eating a traditional based diet, and the value offered in this podcast is incredible. So I really hope you enjoy this one. Please like, share and subscribe. It just helps to grow the channel, and as we evolve, we want to be getting on the best possible guests. So the more views we get, the more shares, the more likes, the easier it is to approach these guests. We've been quite blessed because most people that I have approached have agreed to come on, whether I have to sort of twist their arm or whether they've just gone for it, straight off the back of me making contact. But hopefully, I think they can see the value in what we're doing, and it's all about sharing the message. Each podcast I do is different, and it's normally in different fields, all kind of related to holistic living, holistic lifestyle, and alternative health. But the goal really is to cover as many different angles as we can. Not everything we talk about will work for everyone, but one thing that we cover might work really well. It might be the answer you're looking for. So the more content we have, the better the guest, the more shares and likes. It all sort of comes together to create the podcast that I'm hoping to build. So as always, I appreciate your effort, and please enjoy the ride. A few years ago as well, and we're talking maybe like 10 years ago, and I went on like a juicing thing. I got a bit extreme with juicing, and I went to the dentist, and they said, yeah, you got a bunch of cavities. And I got a few of them filled, and I felt terrible about it. It just felt so wrong. And then I started thinking there must be a way that you can naturally, fix this. It was a little bit too late because I already paid the money and had some of them drilled and filled. But then I found Remel Nagel and went down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the tooth decay stopped.
Well, yeah, so I've actually reversed 3 cavities now. But as soon as you start getting fillings, the expression I use is the dentist owns your tooth now, because that tooth is compromised, the structure's compromised to some degree or another, and maybe the filling gives in one day, or maybe the tooth around the filling gives in, or maybe a cavity goes under the filling. I had that. I actually reversed that, which the dentist was quite shocked and surprised about. But yeah, as soon as you get a filling, then that's it. You're going back, whether it's in 2 years or 10 years or 20 years, you're going back to see the dentist to have that specific tooth looked at. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you must find on with your protocol, because a lot of what you have in your, in the GAPS diet is what Ramon Nagel recommended, and especially a lot of the foods that he suggests that you should avoid, you avoid as well in the GAPS. So you must see some real like progress with people's oral health as well, I'm guessing.
Well, the whole body works as a whole. You can't divide it into compartments. And what's good for the teeth is good for the rest of the body. Everything gets fixed. When a person comes to you with particular disease and they focused on that disease, for example, if someone's got rheumatoid arthritis, they focused on their joints, they're not interested in other organs. But then when they go on the GAPS diet, on the GAPS protocol, they find that their eczema disappears, or psoriasis disappears, chronic cystitis disappears, depression or panic attacks or anxiety, they start sleeping better, the PMS disappears, and all sorts of other problems, which were not maybe at the front for that person. They were just in the background, and they thought that this is something I have to live with. Rheumatoid arthritis is my main problem. But then they find that all those things disappear as well, together with rheumatoid arthritis. Because the body is a one entity. It works as a whole. You cannot divide it. And what's good for one system is good for the rest of the body.
Yeah. So when we were doing, me and my partner were eating the way that I just mentioned for my teeth, she actually reversed her PCOS on the same diet. So again, it's just for me, it's just connecting with the right foods, and then, as you say, holistically the body starts to heal. I think a lot of people aren't they're sort of disingenuous with symptoms or any illnesses. So you can talk to someone about saying, "Oh no, I'm perfectly healthy," but when you really start looking under the hood, "Oh yeah, I do get an achy knee. Oh yeah, sometimes I do feel fatigued," or "Oh yeah, I don't sleep very well actually." And then it all starts to come out, and you normally find that there are multiple different random things that people do have. And like you said, when you start to fix the gut and fix your environment, these things can sort of sporadically start fixing themselves.
Absolutely. Human body is a microbial community. That's what we need to get into our heads. There are more microbes in your body than there are human cells. These microbes are in charge. There is nothing microbe-free in your body. You've got microbial communities in your blood, in your lymph, in your joints, in your bones, in your muscles, in your organs, in your brain, in your eyes, everywhere. But the majority of these microbes live in the digestive system. That's where the headquarters of that microbial community lives. That's where the big ministry, the big government, sitting. And the reason for that is because that's where we put our food. The most powerful influence on any microbial community in nature is food. So because food comes into the digestive system, that's where the majority of those microbes sit. So because food is the most powerful influence on a microbial community, and your body is a microbial community, that makes food the most powerful influence on your health. There is nothing that can come even close to food and its effect on your health and disease. So whenever there is any health problem, anything whatsoever, the first thing to look at is, what am I eating? What can I change in that department? What can I remove? What can I introduce? And you will find that when you do that, all sorts of things disappear. I was very busy today because we were on the farm. We were mincing our organs from a cow and a few goats, and we don't waste any bits of the animal because we respect our animals, we love our animals, and we slaughter them in a humane and a very kind way. And out of respect for the animal, we don't throw anything away, nothing's wasted. So we collect all the organs, and we finish up with this large amount of different organs, plus the fat from the abdomen, you know, the heart, the lungs, the intestines, the bowel, the stomach, all of it. So what I do with these organs, you know, we just dedicate one day with my volunteers, we wash them all and we mince them. We put them through a meat mincer. And then we mix the whole thing and put it into bags and freeze it again. When you take that bag out of the freezer, and you can add it into soup, you can cook it with vegetables, you can make a stew with it, you know, you can add some steak there and make it with stew. People will eat organs and they wouldn't even notice. They're delicious and they blend in very nicely, and you don't have to announce to people what they're eating necessarily. And it's essential for people to eat organs, because whatever organ in your body is ailing, to heal it, you need building materials. The most appropriate and direct and closest building materials will come from the same organ of a healthy animal. So I had many people, for example, who in the winter get chronic pneumonia or chronic bronchitis. They just get this cough and they can't shake it off, and the doctors keep giving them antibiotics. Pneumonia becomes chronic, bronchitis becomes chronic, they just can't shake it off. One meal of lungs minced, stir-fried with salt and pepper and garlic and onions and vegetables in lovely tallow fat, your chronic pneumonia will stop in its tracks. Your chronic bronchitis will stop because you provide your lungs with the right building materials. They will immediately rebuild themselves. They will heal themselves very quickly. One meal. But of course, you don't have to eat one meal. Once you've minced whole 2 big lungs of a beef, for example, beef lungs, they're big. You can have several meals and you can start eating that regularly. And that is the best guarantee you will never have pneumonia again.
Wow. You see a lot of the vegans look at foods like, I don't know, nuts, or, I don't know, cutting a fruit and it looks similar to a brain or something, and like, it must be good for that organ because it looks like that organ. But what's better than actually eating that organ?
Well, I've written a book on this subject, on vegetarianism. I'll show you the book. It's called Vegetarianism Explained. Any person who would like to go on a plant-based lifestyle, or who is already vegan or vegetarian, must read this book, because this book will explain to you how animal foods and plant foods work in the human body. They're very different. They have a different composition and different way of working with the human body. And it is an absolute essential basic material that every human being needs to know before making such a life-changing decision to become a vegetarian or a vegan. If you've got some time, I can explain the basics of it all. Mother Nature gave us 2 groups of foods on the planet. We've got plants with grains, beans, nuts, vegetables, fruit, seeds, you know. And then we have animal foods, meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. And these 2 things have a very different effect on the human body and have a very different nutritional composition. The energy on our planet comes from the sun. You know, all the energy on the planet is recycled, the new energy comes from the sun. So in order to capture that energy of the sun and convert it into solid matter that we can touch and we can eat, Mother Nature created plants. They have photosynthesis, they grab hold of the sunlight and they turn it into green mass, green matter. Then, in order for something else to consume the sunlight in the form of plants, Mother Nature created herbivorous animals, cows, goats, sheep, giraffe, antelope, deer, and so on. And in order for them to digest plant matter, Mother Nature gave them a very special digestive system. These figures should come to my farm and they will see what the digestive system looks like in its entirety. A cow has 3 enormous stomachs called rumen. full of microbes. Why? Because it is a basic scientific fact that the only things on our planet which can truly digest plant matter are microbes. Nobody can digest plants apart from microbial communities. Mother Nature used that scientific fact in designing the digestive system of a cow. She has 3 enormous stomachs. She has rumen chock full of microbes. So the cow doesn't digest the grass herself. It's that microbial community in her 3 stomachs that break the grass for her, convert it into something digestible, and then she absorbs it and benefits from it. In order then for something else to benefit from the sunlight in the form of herbivorous animals, Mother Nature created omnivores and predators. And we human beings belong in that group. We don't have a rumen. We have one small stomach. When you swallow your food and it goes down the tube, it lands in that little stomach. And that little stomach produces hydrochloric acid. The acidity in your stomach, sometimes pH 1 when you're hungry. Very hostile environment for any microbe to survive in. So a healthy human stomach is practically microbe-free. And that makes plants indigestible for human beings. Remember, only microbes can digest plants, nobody else. To digest plant matter, you need a microbial community. Your stomach produces hydrochloric acid, there are no microbes. But hydrochloric acid and other elements of the stomach juice are ideal for breaking down meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. These are the only things which digest quickly and easily and properly in a human stomach. And then that mixture moves into several meters of intestines where absorption of food happens. And the only things that can absorb are things that got properly digested. If you haven't digested it, you can't absorb it. So again, it's only meat, fish, eggs, and dairy that absorb easily in the human digestive system. And then when we analyze the structure of these animal foods in the laboratory, they're largely made out of proteins and fats. And the same with human body. About 70% of your body is water by weight, and by molecular count, it's almost 90%. So when we remove water out of a human body, what's left, the dry weight, is 50-50, protein and fat. And when we analyze human protein and fat in the lab, we find that they are almost identical to the composition of protein and fat from animal foods. So animal foods are easy for us to digest, easy to absorb, and they provide ideal building materials to maintain our physical structure, to maintain all your organs, your skeleton, your muscles, your brain, your liver, your digestive system, your lungs, your heart, your skin, all of it. All of it. Ideal building materials come only from animal foods. Plants contain lots of proteins and fats in them, but the proteins are very different in plants. Certain amino acids are missing, other amino acids are in excess, and plant proteins are indigestible for the human digestive system. The most researched plant protein is gluten, and the more we research it, the more we realize nobody can digest it. It damages everybody. And that's only one protein. There are hundreds and hundreds of proteins in plants, and the more we're studying them, the more we find out that they're actually damaging and we cannot digest them. They damage the human body. The same with plant fats. Majority of fats in the plants are polyunsaturated. We need a little bit of polyunsaturated oils in our diet, and just eating a handful of nuts per day or lettuce, something like that, will give you enough. But the bulk, the majority of fat consumption need to be animal fats, because their composition is ideal to building our fat. Remember, 50% of your dry weight is fat. Fat is structural for the human body, and we have lots of high-fat organs in the body, such as the brain, the rest of the nervous system, your endocrine system, your bone marrow, and lots of other areas of the body. And indeed, the brain is the first place that suffers in people who go on a plant-based diet, so-called diet, on vegans in particular. The brain matter starts shrinking. It literally physically shrinks. We see it on the scans, on the brain scans. The first thing that happens with long-term vegans, sense of humor disappears. They become black and white. Their personality changes. They become hangry. There's a term, that's a clinical term, made out of two words, angry and hungry. The brain is starving. That's why the person is angry. A starving brain becomes angry. Yeah, so they develop a certain personality, these people, where they become intolerant, very critical, revolutionaries, you know, they very prudish and so on. So lots of things change in the human body because plants are indigestible and they have the wrong protein and the wrong fat for feeding and building the human body. In fact, my clinical experience has shown conclusively to me that human beings can live perfectly well without eating any plants at all. Strictly speaking, we do not need to consume plants. We do not need 5 a day or 12 a day or 15 a day or whatever the latest figure from the governments. We do not need any of it. You do not need vegetables, you don't need fruit, you don't need juices, you don't need any of it. And in fact, we have now a growing population of children and young people in the world who cannot handle any plant matter at all. Plants make them sick. I know hundreds and hundreds of young people in the world now who only recovered from their chronic debilitating illnesses when they've removed all plants completely. They live entirely on meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. And they recover from autoimmune illnesses, allergies, mental illnesses, cancer, all kinds of terrible diseases, and function and look beautiful and are full of energy. So these patients, these people show us without a shadow of a doubt that human beings can live perfectly well eating only animal foods. But hundreds and hundreds of... Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say on that point, would you say all humans or predominantly say white Europeans that are from a environment that maybe didn't have, you know, access to fruits and things like this? Or are you saying literally anyone?
Well, we're all different. You know, every one of us is unique, a unique individual. We all have different heritage, different genetics, different history. And if your genetic stock came from some tropical area of the world, chances are you can eat more plant matter and you'll feel well. But you still need to eat animal foods to sustain the physical structure of your body, because plants do not feed us. Plants are cleansers. They're powerful cleansers that keep us clean on the inside. They've got antioxidants, phenols, salicylates, lectins, and antioxidants and all sorts of phytonutrients, which are very good at mopping up toxicity and keeping your body clean on the inside. And every human being is different. We all need different amount of feeding and different amount of cleansing. Some people need very little feeding to sustain their physical bodies, but lots of cleansing. Other people need lots of feeding and not much cleansing, because animal foods have a cleansing ability too. You know, quite a powerful cleansing ability.
In terms of, you mentioned not needing plants, and I actually do believe that. I was carnivore for 3 years, and I did fine. I struggled to put weight on. I'd become almost too lean, and that's why I started to add carbs back in. But I did well. I felt great. My cognitive function was amazing and all of this. But one thing I was always a little bit cautious of is no fiber. What's your view on fiber? Do we need it?
Fiber is a food for microbes. Human beings cannot digest it. It doesn't feed us. We eat it exclusively to feed our microbial community. The equivalent of a cow's rumen is at the end of our digestive system in the large intestine, in the bowel. Because we start at the top with the stomach, which has hydrochloric acid, so that's practically sterile. And then as we move through intestines, there's more and more microbes start appearing there. And by the time you get to the large intestine, to the bowel, that's where the majority of our gut flora lives, the bulk of it. And the microbes love eating plants. So the plants that you eat actually do not feed you. They feed that microbial community. And as that microbial community eats that plant matter, the fiber and the starch and what have you, in there, they then produce certain substances which can feed you a little bit. So what happens in a cow happens in a human being. The difference is the cow's rumen is at the beginning of her digestive system, before the absorption happens. In us human beings, our rumen is at the end. It's too late. All the absorption has already happened higher up. So you can get some bits and pieces from that microbial activity and some forming of the immune system, you know, strengthening of the immune system, but it cannot feed you entirely. It cannot feed you exclusively. So fiber is a food for microbes. Problem is, fiber and starch and other prebiotics feed equally the good microbes and the bad microbes. If you have healthy, robust, excellent, natural gut flora, wonderful. You can eat starch, you can eat fiber, they will digest it and they will produce the right substances from it and keep you healthy and well. Problem is, vast majority, almost 100% of people in the Western world do not have a healthy gut flora. Because people buy their food in supermarkets. Every bite of food you buy in a supermarket comes from industrial agriculture. It's laden with agricultural chemicals, which are antibiotics in their nature. If you're buying your food in the supermarket, you are eating antibiotics for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, damaging and damaging and damaging your gut flora. When we eat antibiotics regularly like that, the gut flora gets dominated by fungi, by yeasts, and by various other microbes which should not be in such large numbers. When you feed them starch and fiber, this pathogenic microbial community, they convert them into very toxic substances, and these toxins absorb and make you very sick. That is why we have a growing population proportion of young people and children in the Western world who cannot tolerate any plants at all, because their gut flora is so abnormal, so unbalanced. If they provide any food at all for those fungi and for other pathogenic microbes, they get poisoned and they get sick. They get mental symptoms, physical symptoms, allergies, autoimmunity, the energy goes down, and so on. But if you stay for a period of time on the GAPS diet, and that's what the GAPS diet has been designed for normalizing and rebalancing your gut flora. Not only gut flora, but your whole microbial flora in your whole body. It's been designed to do that, to remove all those imbalances, all that disharmony. Once you've been for a while on the GAPS nutritional protocol, on the GAPS diet, you will straighten up your gut flora, you will bring all the pathogens down, you will rebalance all the microbial community. And at that point, you can bring back potatoes, you can even have sourdough bread, and you can even start eating starches which you could not eat before.
Perfect. And how long are you recommending people to do that? Is it 2 years?
2 years minimum. 2 years minimum, depending on the severity of the whole health problems. Some people, when they recover, they have to stay on the GAPS diet practically permanently for the rest of their lives, such as a person with severe mental illness, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes type 1, autism, ADHD, things like that. But if you had something fairly mild, such as IBS maybe, or maybe you had eczema or asthma or some allergies or something, you can go through the GAPS diet, restore your gut flora, restore the balance there, and then you can reintroduce other foods, and your body will let you know whether you can introduce them or not. Because if you introduce them too early and your old symptoms return, that's a signal to you too early, I'm not ready. You can wait a little bit longer, and then you try again, and you find, oh, I'm tolerating it. My old symptoms didn't return.
Yeah. What about like you're on the GAPS diet for 2 years, that's the plan, and you go away for a week and you're struggling to stick specifically to, you know, to the protocol. If you were to eat, say, one takeaway or a week's worth of food out, because that's all you can get hold of, does that set you back massively, or is it just a case of get home, get back on it, and you can continue the momentum?
Of course, life happens. Of course, people, you know, cheat, people eat something they shouldn't because they felt like it. And everybody pays a price for it, depending on the severity of the condition, how severely the gut flora is damaged. Some person will just have a few hours of a headache or symptoms. Another person can be thrown back quite seriously. They will have to start again practically. So it depends.
Oh. Yeah, because obviously part of this is healing the gut. You know, the gut becomes porous, it becomes damaged, and then you end up with leaky gut. If you're a year in, and you know this scenario I've just said, you've ended up going off the diet for a short period of time, can that significantly damage the gut again, or is it constantly getting stronger and stronger and stronger? So if you cheated for, I don't know, a cheat meal in your first month, it'll be more severe than maybe if you did one 6 months, you know, down the line.
The thing is, you see, when people go on the GAPS nutritional protocol, they learn and learn the value of food, how foods work, how they affect their own body. They observe and they feel in their own body how it all affects them. And they learn to cook, and they find the best sources of food. People stop buying in supermarkets. We must all abandon supermarkets. You're buying disease in supermarkets. You're not buying health. We need to start buying directly from organic farms, from organic farmers. It takes a bit of organization, but that's all it takes. And you start buying health, good health for your family and for yourself. So the person, as they go through the GAPS nutritional protocol, the person changes. And you can never unlearn what you've learned. You cannot go back to your previous self when you didn't know all of these facts and you didn't know all of what you learned. You become wiser, you become deeper, you know more, you become more informed and more connected to your body, to nature, to the whole of universe, to the creator. You just change. So people don't go back. They to eat what they ate a year ago, to go and buy some pizza and a Coca-Cola, what seems like a terrible travesty, terrible trespass against themselves. They would never do that again.
Okay, that's a good answer. Why bother? That's a good answer. Okay. Do you mind? I mean, I've read one of your books. I've got the yellow one. Because you got a few, haven't you? I bought that one. And I've listened to a lot of your interviews over the years, so I know your story. Do you mind just sort of explaining what got you into, what you now know, and obviously what developed this idea to push it further into a lifestyle?
Well, I grew up in a traditional society. I was very fortunate in that. When I was 18 months old, I was in a crash, and there was a food poisoning in the crash, which I didn't recover from. And I nearly died. The diarrhea continued, the vomiting continued. I've lost an enormous amount of weight. I couldn't even stand up anymore. And my parents just could not heal me. The doctors could not help. Nobody seemed to have any solution to my situation. And then in desperation, my mother wrote a letter to my grandparents, who lived in a small village in the middle of mountains in Russia, on the Ural mountains, called Ural or Ural Mountains. And my grandmother got on a plane, or got on a train, and she came and she picked me up and took me to the village. And my parents didn't see me for a year and a half because it was quite far away and they couldn't travel that far. When they came to the village to pick me up a year and a half later, they didn't recognize me. There was this robust, healthy toddler with a chicken leg in my in my hand, apparently. So my grandmother healed me with the GAPS diet. Now, years later, I've realized what she's done. It's a traditional knowledge that all women had in those traditional societies. It was a tiny village where everybody produced their own food because they had no other choice. There was one tiny shop in the village which sold buckets, spades, and salt. That was about it. All food that people ate, they produced themselves. Everybody had a cow, everybody had sheep and goats and geese and ducks and chickens and bees and gardens. Everybody produced their own food. And my grandmother was a village healer. She knew herbs and she knew diets, and everybody fermented their own milk from their cow. She had a pantry where she had this enameled tub where she would put fresh milk every day, and everybody had their own culture in the family. It was kind of unique, you know. So it was soup. It was kefir, this fermented dairy product. It was eggs, it was meat, and it was all the organs, and potatoes and grains were out. That's how my grandmother healed me. And then when I had my first child, that was already in the UK, because I married an English person and I moved here and had my first son. He was diagnosed autistic at the age of 3. And I rediscovered this diet myself at that point. And only later on I realized what my grandmother has done for me years and years ago. And that was the GAPS diet again, all over again. And that's what healed my child. And that's how I opened my clinic and started working with many other children. Initially, I started working with autism, naturally. But then I've discovered that the siblings of these children are not healthy. They have ADHD and dyslexia and dyspraxia and asthma and eczema and diabetes type 1 and allergies, and they have digestive problems and they're clingy and all sorts of a whole bouquet. And then I've discovered the parents are not healthy either. They have physical problems, autoimmunity, allergies, digestive problems, mental problems. And so the whole family needed healing. And that's how, having started with autism, then I started treating whole families with the same protocol. And people started recovering from everything, every chronic disease. That's how the whole GAPS concept was born. And my first book was written in 2004. Indeed, it's a yellow book, and it was focusing on the brain. Because at that point, I was working with children with learning disabilities and mentally ill people. But later on, I've written a second half of the GAPS concept, and this is this book, the blue one. It came in 2020, Gut and Physiology Syndrome, where I focus on the rest of the body. This is the brain, that's the rest of the body. So they complete each other, these two books. So in the blue book, I talk about autoimmunity and allergies and arthritis and neurological illnesses and hormonal abnormalities and digestive problems, the whole lot. And over the years, now I've been working with this protocol for about 30 years. There is not one chronic disease that I would not recommend this protocol for. It just puts the whole body on the right track, and the body fixes itself. Because human body is a miraculous creation. It heals itself. Your own body heals you. Not the pill, not the doctor, not the diet. Your own body is doing the work. All you have to do is provide your body with the right tools and stop hurting it, stop damaging it. Then it fixes itself.
If you had someone that was like stage 4 or, you know, something terrible, would you also recommend get on this? This would be the first step.
Stage 4, you mean even cancer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, I mean, stage 4 might be too far, I don't know, but someone who's going through that, would you be saying, you know, I'd be looking to avoid more poison by going to the doctor and getting on the diet? Would that be the kind of first thing you would do?
Absolutely. For a long time, I never worked with cancer because cancer patients are never referred to me. But one of my GAPS practitioners, I've been training health practitioners for a long time now. We have gapstraining.com. The courses are online now. And we have 2 professions, certified GAPS practitioners and certified GAPS coaches. And one of my practitioners has healed her husband from a melanocytic melanoma using the GAPS diet. It's the worst form of melanoma. He was given something like 2 months to live. And he lived for another 12 years, healthy and happy, this man. So she's written a book on this subject, which is in the resources on my website, gaps.me. That's my website. And so whoever's interested in treating cancer with the GAPS protocol, please look at her book. But in this blue book, I have the full spectrum of the GAPS diet. And here we have a ketogenic form of GAPS diet. For cancer, I recommend that people go on that form, on the ketogenic form of the GAPS diet initially. Later on, you can expand and move to other forms.
What do you think of people that say you need to get on an alkaline diet straight away, which is pretty much the opposite, right? Would you suggest that that could be dangerous and sometimes even fatal? You know, by going vegan, essentially.
Well, we're all different. And there have been people, there is a Gerson protocol. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Max Gerson was a German doctor who lived in the first half of the 20th century. And he emigrated to America and he designed this protocol. And his protocol is vegan for healing cancer. And he has helped thousands of people all over the world to recover from cancer with the vegan protocol. What veganism does, veganism is not a diet. It is a form of fasting. I explain it in detail in this little book. You are not feeding yourself to any degree. You are cleansing, 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 cleansing. Cancer is a disease of toxicity. Your body is polluted, seriously polluted. Your whole body is polluted. Cancer is usually the solution to this problem. It's not the cause of the problem. You've polluted your body. There is a lot of toxicity. Toxicity always comes with an overgrowth of parasites in the body and fungi. Cancers are mushrooms. Mushrooms that grow in your body. Every solid cancer is a mushroom. It's a fungal community. And inside that mushroom, there's viruses and bacteria and all sorts of things living together.
Yeah.
So alkaline diet, mushrooms do not like alkaline environments. Alkaline diet helps to shrink that mushroom and detoxify the body, remove the basis for the cancer. So many people recovered with the Gerson protocol, with the vegan protocol, cleansing, 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 cleansing. However, there are varieties of cancer which do not respond to Gerson, and these are lymphoid cancers and cancers of the blood and the immune system. Those require animal foods as well.
Yeah.
And then we have the opposite spectrum, which is the ketogenic diet, where plants are completely removed. And every human being is unique. We have to figure out what appeals to you, what's right for you. Maybe at some point you need to be cleansing on a vegan fast and then move into ketogenic. Or maybe you feel that you need to go on a ketogenic straight away. Everybody's different.
Okay. One thing I did want to ask you, actually, a little bit off of the diet conversation, but there's definitely something in like your psychology. So stress being a huge problem, a lot of the time subconscious stress. So there's like, say, German New Medicine, for instance, which discusses how all disease is caused by essentially toxicity of the mind. So psychological, suppressed conflicts, essentially. Do you factor this in with your clients, or are you focused on the diet? Because once you heal the gut, then your body's more maybe capable to deal with stored tension or psychological issues as well.
Well, GAPS is the foundation, because you have to feed your body properly and you have to maintain the physical structure of the body you live in, right?
Yeah.
So GAPS will work on the physical body very, very well. But of course, we human beings are not the bodies. We are spirits.
Yeah.
That's what we need to understand. We are spiritual beings, and the body is only a jacket that we wear for one lifetime. You, as a spirit, are eternal. You never die. And you came into this world for a purpose. There is some destiny. There is some lessons that you have to go through. There's some wisdom you have to gain from this lifetime. And there are some assignments that every one of us comes with. We don't just come here by accident to just have fun and then die.
Yeah, I believe that.
There is a deep purpose. So the mind is kind of in between. It belongs in the brain. It belongs maybe outside the brain. We need to research this area. It's kind of in the middle between the spirit and the body. The GAPS nutritional protocol, the diet, will give your body every tool to recover. But you do need to go deeper to your spirit and figure out why you had to get this disease. Because disease is a gift. Disease is not an accident. It hasn't happened to you by accident. It's a gift.
Yeah.
It is a gift that your spirit put into your body to wake you up and make you go through a certain lesson so you can grow in your consciousness and can become a better spirit. Every disease has a spiritual lesson behind it. So it's important to have lots of time on your own when you think. Human beings need to think. That is why remove noise from your life. Do not have TVs or music playing in the background all the time, or keep being busy all the time. You need time to connect to yourself and to think and analyze, what have you done wrong? What lesson are you missing? What is your spirit putting right in front of you, right in your face, and you're refusing to see it? Until you see it, until you deal with that karma or that spiritual lesson, you will keep recreating the same disease or creating new diseases in your body, because the body is basically a tool that the spirit uses to communicate its lessons through. It puts its lessons through. So the German New Medicine tries to deal with the mind in between, but you have to go directly to the spirit, I think. The mind is very important. What we find that when people go on the GAPS diet, their brains start working properly. Because many people who live on conventional foods, in the Western world in particular, their minds are so idle, their brains are made out of poor quality materials, and they're intoxicated. They can't think straight. Many people can't think, period. They're not thinking at all. They're just filling themselves with noise all the time. They're in front of computers or TV screens or some other screens or their mobile phones, or there's music playing all the time. They do not give themselves a moment to be with themselves, to think, a moment of silence when they can think, when they can analyze, when they can switch their brains on. And the brain is idle by Coca-Cola and sugar and wheat and toxins, and the brain's not working well anyway. So when we go on the GAPS diet, the brain cleanses and it starts functioning. The person wakes up, they start thinking deeper, and they start analyzing, and they start discovering things about themselves, learning about themselves, who they are, and why did this disease come to you, and what happened to you, and put that piece together and that piece together. It's a very important work to do through your mind. So GAPS gives you the foundation to do all that work on your mind, on your spirit, so you can change as a spiritual being, grow, hopefully go in the right direction.
Yeah, I know when I was carnivore, I felt more spiritually connected than any other time. And a lot of vegans, I just feel like they're just so backwards. I feel they almost sort of act like being spiritual is being light and up here and floating around in la la land. Whereas for me, the most I felt in terms of like my spiritual connection was when I was grounded on this earth. And you said something that really resonated with me. You're here for a purpose. You're in a physical body for a purpose. So living in la la land and floating and, in wherever they are, when they're not grounded, I just feel like that's almost completely void of the point. When I felt, when I feel grounded and connected to nature and in the moment, for me that, and the more animals animal foods I'm eating, the more I felt connected to them in a way. So they'll convince you that it's like a dead, rancid animal, but there's more energy in meat than, a dead plant that has been shipped from the other side of the world and, is encased with all of these anti-nutrients. So it's almost just like completely backwards. And when you actually start looking into what you're saying, the truth resonates, and it does resonate. It resonates very strongly.
Absolutely. Well, veganism does not feed you. It is a fast. This is not my idea. This idea comes from Hinduism, the oldest religion in the world. Hinduism is thousands of years old. Some say 35,000 years old, some say longer. And there is a pilgrimage in Hindu religion where they travel long distances across India to their sacred sites. And part of that pilgrimage is a 41, 42-day fast. I've been to India many times, and I've spoken to these Hindu pilgrims, and I've asked them questions. I've researched this subject, and they've explained to me what kind of fast it is. Their fast is basically a vegan Western diet. They're allowed to eat plants, but they're not allowed to eat anything out of animal kingdom. They do it only for 41, 42 days as part of their religious pilgrimage. They say it's very difficult, and they can't wait for it to end. So there is no traditional veganism in India. Veganism, modern evangelical veganism in India came from New York with the books of Nathan Pritikin in the 1930s, who wrote very successful books for some reason, I don't know, and they've arrived to India and they created some kind of movement there. But traditionally, vegetarian people in India are vegetarian not because they've chosen to be vegetarians. They're vegetarian out of poverty. The animal that they would raise, they can sell to someone else who can afford it and buy enough rice and beans for the rest of the year for the whole big family. So they can't afford to eat their own animals. But whenever they get a chance to eat any fish or any meat, they will never say no to it. And that is why the cow is a sacred animal in India. She gives them animal food, which sustains their physical bodies. Milk, cheese, cream, butter, ghee. And they all have chickens and ducks, and they add as many eggs as they can into their meals. And that's another animal food which provides building materials for their bodies. And all Indians who live along waterways, along oceans, lakes and rivers, the best and the most precious part of food on their plate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is fish. That's the most important part of their diet, fish. Another animal food which sustains the physical structure of the human body. So veganism is not a diet, it is a form of fasting. There are many people in this world who are so toxic and overweight, they could do with a fast. So they could do with a few weeks of veganism. They will lose weight, they will, as long as they don't sit on macaroni cheese, you know, and Coca-Cola, as long as they don't try to be that kind of vegan, as long as they start cooking and they really eat good quality vegetables and so on. And the body will start cleansing and they start feeling better. But at a certain point, when the body finished cleansing, it will give them a signal. I finished cleansing now, feed me. And the way the body will say it to this vegan, it'll give this person a desire for steak, for a roasted chicken, for bacon and eggs, for a pot of cream, for an animal food, nourishing animal food. Problem is, many vegans in our modern world do it for political reasons, emotional reasons, religious reasons, and other reasons. They don't listen to their body. They force it to continue cleansing when the body is asking to be fed. And that's when they fall into trouble. That's when they start developing, that's when they get the infectious mononucleosis, one infection after another, antibiotics. They finish up being gapsters because the gut flora gets damaged. And the body has no choice at that point to start breaking bone and muscle to feed vital organs, to feed the brain, the lungs, the heart, the liver. So you start, these people start losing muscle mass and bone mass and brain mass. The brain shrinks. They cannot think straight, these people. They do not realize what's going on and what's happening to them. It's a very, very sad thing that happens to them. They get deeper and deeper. But we have now a growing population of recovering vegans and vegetarians. People who have driven themselves for many years to be vegan, and then they hit rock bottom, they develop degenerative chronic disease, and they start eating meat. They realize that they cannot live without animal foods. And they become recovering.
Do you think that's what is the kind of foundational cause of cavities? Is the body is robbing from the teeth to essentially put, use those minerals accordingly. So it's almost robbing calcium from the teeth.
Absolutely. Teeth are bones. They have exactly the same structure as the bones. The bones are like bookshelves. The shelving is made out of collagen, a protein collagen, while calcium, magnesium, boron, and other minerals are books standing on those shelves. Osteoporosis and tooth decay is lack of collagen, lack of shelving. So the books have no way to stand, they just get washed away. They fall off the shelves because the shelves are all broken. Where does collagen come from? Only from animal foods. You cannot build collagen from plants. You cannot get collagen from plants. It comes from animal foods. And it comes from connective tissue of animals, from the carcass, from the ligaments, the fascia, the bones, the connective tissue, from soup, gelatinous, good meat stock. That's where it comes from. It is meat stock that builds the right structure of your bones and the right structure of your teeth and heals the tooth decay. meat stock, fat-soluble vitamins, meat, fat, organs.
Yeah. Have you seen people fully reverse cavities that have worked with you?
I have, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have. And Wesley Price, the renowned American dentist who put a lot of research into this, he reversed cavities in many people simply using butter oil, high quality butter, and fish oil, cod liver oil.
Yeah. I'm very wary of the cod liver oil, I've got to be honest. Because when you look into, you know, the DHA and the sort of omega-3 in well, the DHA essentially in fish, it's to help the fish live in cooler temperatures, right? So it's running through the blood. So when you're pulling it out of cold water, it can go rancid very quickly. So I've always worried about the fermented cod liver oil. Is that something that you would say you don't need, just focus on what I'm telling you, or would you suggest for people to go on that as well?
Of course, quality of supplements is always a question, because when we buy supplements, we trust the company who is telling us their marketing materials and tell them it's good and you should take it for the rest of your life. Every supplement company wants you to buy their supplements for the rest of your life, basically. Yeah. But the quality of the supplement market is a multi-billion market, and the quality of a lot of supplements are very questionable. And many supplement companies now have been bought by the pharmaceutical industry, by the pharmaceutical companies. So they are in the occult way are behind these companies. You don't even realize who is manufacturing your supplements anymore. And there is another not very nice fact now, that they're putting mRNA technology into many supplements. After the 2 years of entertainment that we had, you know, recently, they're starting to put that technology into many supplements with for nefarious reasons. So we have to be careful with supplements, all of us. Just buying oily fish, keepers, bloaters, smoked salmon, smoked mackerel, you know, prawns, wild Atlantic prawns, and other things like that will provide you with enough of these oils. And the major benefits of cod liver oil is the vitamin A and vitamin D and vitamin K2 if it is fermented. You can get them from other foods. If you're eating a high-fat diet with animal fats from animals that are on pasture, under the sunlight, there will be plenty of vitamin D in their fats, in the cream, in the butter, in the fat of the animal, and vitamin D. Vitamin A, the best source of vitamin A is the liver. The liver, make liver pate with that fat. If you cut liver into bite-sized pieces, fry it in that fat from this animal from the pasture, and then blend it with some gelatinous meat stock, garlic, a handful of garlic, make a pate. You will have plenty of vitamin A, plenty of vitamin D in there, and the vitamin K2 is produced by your own gut flora. So if you eat fermented foods, if you eat fermented vegetables, if you drink kefir every day or eat sour cream, you will get plenty of K2. We don't have to have supplements. There is this myth that modern humans cannot live without supplements. Mother Nature designed our bodies to eat food, not live on pills. We don't need pills.
What there's a growing theory around vitamin A becoming toxic. Have you looked into that at all?
Absolutely. Our industry has been fortifying processed foods with synthetic vitamin A for decades now. Your bread is fortified, everything made out of flour, breakfast cereals are fortified, snacks, crisps, soft drinks, you know, all sorts of junk stuff is fortified with synthetic vitamin A. Synthetic vitamin A doesn't work in the body. It doesn't do what a proper vitamin A is supposed to do, and it is toxic. And then, you know, a few years ago, they suddenly decided to test the population for vitamin A content. They found that people in the Western world have too much, that we've all been poisoned by this synthetic vitamin A. And as usual, of course, the mainstream then recommends it. They did not recommend people to stop fortifying and to stop eating junk food and all these foods made out of, you know, fortified things with synthetic vitamin A. Instead, they zeroed on natural foods which contain natural vitamin A. And the doctors were instructed, doctors are soldiers in an army, they only do what they're told. You know, they don't think, they're not allowed to think. It's not their job to think. So they now tell everybody, don't eat liver, don't eat things that contain natural vitamin A. There's too much vitamin A already in the population. There is vitamin A and vitamin A. These are two, you're comparing apples and oranges. Synthetic vitamin A doesn't work as vitamin A and it's toxic. Natural vitamin A is what you need. Every pregnant woman, every day, must eat a piece of liver the size of the palm of her hand. Not optional. If she wants to have intelligent, healthy, beautiful child, she must do that. That has been the traditional knowledge for millennia in every human society all over the world. Now the doctors are telling every pregnant woman, you must not eat liver. Continue eating breakfast cereals, dearie. Continue eating snacks. Continue drinking soft drinks. Continue gorging on sugar and bread and pasta and all of this.
Keep taking vaccines.
Start taking vaccines and stuff your body with synthetic vitamin A, which is toxic for your baby. But don't eat natural vitamin A.
Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so segueing on to a point you made earlier, actually, about shopping at the supermarket. So a lot of the produce in supermarkets, I'm guessing not all, but probably most, maybe you'll tell me all, you know, it has been grown genetically, or pesticides or antibiotics in the meat and all of these things. So you need to be very careful. Some people would struggle to go to farms and, you know, the butchers and these things, especially in terms of the cost. Would you say that there's no way around this? You need to find a way to go to the farms, go to the butchers. Do we trust the butchers?
Well, we should all abandon supermarkets because all shelves in the supermarkets are filled with industrial agriculture. Industrial agriculture uses loads and loads of chemicals, most of which are broad-spectrum antibiotics in their nature. On top of that, they're toxic to your liver, to your kidneys, to your brain, to everything in the body. You are eating chemicals. You are damaging your microbiome in your body. On top of that, what you need to understand is that food is information. On a biophysical level, it's information. When we eat food, we're putting information into our bodies. The body then has to analyze that information and act upon it. What kind of information is the food in a supermarket loaded with? Information of abuse, greed, disease, suffering, pain. You are eating that kind of information. How is that information going to make you healthy? Only information of love, the vibration of love, brings health and happiness to a human being. So you have to find food which carries that information. So you have to find farms where the farmer loves his land, loves his animals, loves his birds, loves his vegetables, loves his bees, looks after them properly with love and care, gives them the right habitat, the right food, does his best. Then that food will carry the energy of love for you, the information of love. And only that information can give you good health and happiness. No effort is too much for obtaining that kind of food. Of course, it's so easy to push a cart in a supermarket and just throw everything in a trolley. But then expect disease, expect suffering, expect foggy brains you can't think. That is your choice. But if it's good health you want, and happiness you want, and joy you want, then go to a local, if you're in the city, go to a local farmer's market, talk to the farmers who sell their produce there, get their email addresses, get their contact details, and ask them, can I visit your farm? And then on the weekend, throw the kids and the dog in the car and drive out to have a lovely day on a farm, visiting an organic farm. Have a look how the animals are kept, how the birds are kept. Look in the eye of that farmer. Because we human beings can figure out very quickly, just looking in the eye of another person, is this a good person? You don't need any information. You'll feel it. You will feel it. Can I trust this person? Once you find these farms, start buying directly from them exclusively. The governments in the Western world are structured in such a way that they support industrial agriculture. They give them subsidies, they give them money, whatever. But the life of good organic farmers is made hell by these governments. They make their life very difficult. The only real true organic farmers who survive in this world are the ones who have a customer base that they sell the food directly to, who have their own little farm shop, or they deliver to somebody their food. So not only you will be buying good health and lovely food for yourself and your family, but you will be supporting a good farmer who otherwise might not survive in this world. All it takes is getting organized. So you drive every Saturday, let's say, to these farms and get your weekly supplies. You bring it all home for the whole week. So you don't have to do any shopping for the whole week. If you get all your friends and family into some kind of group, and there's enough of you, many farmers are happy to deliver. So you don't have to drive out of the city anymore. They will bring it to one apartment in the city for the whole group, and then the group can come to your apartment and pick up their bits and pieces. So all it takes is getting organized. And that way, you will not just dumbly push that trolley in the supermarket buying disease. You will start making good friends. You'll start visiting beautiful farms, getting out into the fresh air and nature out of the city. And you start switching on your brain, start thinking, and start connecting to people who also think, people who are also awake.
Yeah. Would you trust going to the butchers? Because that's probably the next, most convenient thing if you're in the city.
No. The butchers, I would speak to the butchers. I would befriend the butcher and chat to him, because they're also good people and they connected to all kinds of farms. So normally they will sell meat from industrial farms. But if you ask him, can you get me a rare breed pig, pork? Or can you get me pastured cattle, truly pastured cattle, not so-called grass-fed? Grass-fed means that very often that the animals never see the pasture, never see the light of day. They're locked up in a barn. The farmer goes and grows a monoculture of hybrid grass on his pastures using chemicals, then cuts that grass, hauls it into that barn and feeds his cattle. And he's allowed to call that beef grass-fed. That's not what you want. That is not real, true grass-fed. Grass-fed is the animals that live on pasture under the sunlight. So their meat and fat and milk and butter will have vitamin D in it and lots of other beautiful things. So you want that kind of beef and that kind of milk. Speak to these butchers. They know farmers. They know grass-fed cattle. They know from whom they should get for you a good piece. They will do that for you very happily. And if you befriend a good butcher like that and start and you come and pay for a good piece of meat, then you ask him, have you got any bits of pieces you're throwing away? Bones, joints, tails, heads, I don't know, bits and pieces. You will be given so much, you will have to bring your car. You will not be able to carry these bags.
Yeah.
And these are the most valuable bits and pieces of the animal, because these are connective tissue. When you put them in a big pan, fill it up with water, add salt and pepper, and cook it for 3-4 hours, you will get meat stock full of collagen. 3/4 of all protein in your body is collagen, and majority of diseases, chronic diseases in the world, are lack of collagen. Tooth decay is lack of collagen. Osteoporosis is lack of collagen. Hormonal problems are lack of collagen very often. So if you start making this meat stock out of these bones and joints that the butcher otherwise throws away, they go into a big bin behind the shop and then shipped God knows where, for making dog food or cat food or I don't know what. And you'll be getting all this for free. You'll be getting the best nutrition for free.
Yeah. If somebody's eating liver or organs from a supermarket, animal from a supermarket, would you be looking at that very differently? Because obviously the liver and obviously fat as well in meat normally stores a lot of the minerals and vitamins, but equally it stores a lot of the toxins. So we're talking about eating liver, but we're talking about eating good quality grass-fed, outdoor bred animals who have been eaten, naturally.
The first thing to understand about the liver does not store toxins. The liver processes toxins and sends them out. It doesn't store them. If your liver started storing toxins, you will die within days. In our modern world, the liver will just get junked up with toxicity and will not work anymore. So the liver is clean. It's perfectly safe to eat from any source. The fat, the underskin fat, is usually the place where toxins are stored. That is true. So you want to, of course, it is always best to get grass-fed, the best animals directly from the farmer. It's best.
Yeah.
But there are many families who are just starting on this journey, and maybe they are not very wealthy and they have a low income. Buy what you can, whatever you can. Do your best, whatever you can afford. You will still recover. The most important thing to remove, and initially always all the benefits in health for people come from simply removing wheat and sugar. Bread, pasta, breakfast cereals, snacks, bagels, buns, I don't know, biscuits, cakes, sugar, all of the soft drinks, all of that sort of stuff. No matter what diet you decide to follow, from vegan to vegetarian to carnivore to anything, in the first 2 weeks, the bulk of benefits that you will get from the change in diet will be by simply removing wheat and sugar, processed junk. Do that first and foremost. Replace it with whatever you can get from the local butcher, from a supermarket. Maybe you can't afford meat from the local butcher. You can't afford organic. You can't afford grass-fed yet. Maybe you can only afford what you can get in a cheaper shop. Go ahead and do that. By simply removing the junk, wheat and sugar, and eating more meat, more organs, making meat stock, making soup at home, cooking your meals, you will benefit and you will start recovering from the illness. Later on, when your brain works better, when the fog is lifted, you feel better, you have more energy, you will restructure your life and you will start finding better quality animal foods.
Yeah, I found that when I just started on this journey, started with food, I still shopped at the supermarket at the time. I don't much anymore. So I started to do that. Then I removed, I bought a water distiller, started adding my own minerals to the water. So I started to clean that up. And then I started to change my pans, and I started to look at the whole and trying to remove all toxins as best I can. For anyone that talks to me about this, because I'm quite, a few years down the line, they feel incredibly overwhelmed. And I always just say, start with one thing and then you move to the next and the next. And it does become this journey. And you said something earlier that absolutely resonated with me. And I've said this a few times in different interviews on this channel about illnesses or pains or, whatever it may be, even psychological factors like stress and anxieties and things. They are a gift. They're not a pleasant gift, but if you take it on board and you go on a journey and you study yourself and you study the situation and you overcome each hurdle, and each hurdle leads to another hurdle and another, it is a blessing. A lot of people just want a quick fix. They don't want to think. They don't want to look into things. They definitely don't want to look into themselves. And they take a drug or they go to a therapist or whatever it is that they do. And you find that you almost failed that test. And then what happens is it knocks louder on the door and then louder and then louder. And then it ends up being I don't want to say irreversible, because, I'd imagine that we can fix anything really. But it becomes such a bigger problem. And because you've not acquired the knowledge along the way, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and then harder to face at the end. One drug leads to another, and the symptoms cause this symptom, but you need this now to manage that symptom, and before you know it, you're in a right hot mess, and you've really kind of turned those, what could have been a blessing if you were willing to go on the journey, you've now turned it into an absolute nightmare.
Absolutely. Well, life always presents us with choices, and there are always only two choices: the right one or the easy one. If your life motto is to go the easy way, always, to get the easy choice always. You know, you go to the doctor, you get a pill, you suppress your pain, you suppress inflammation in your body, because all the doctor can do is to give you drugs to make you a little bit more comfortable, to suppress your symptoms. But symptoms are the way your body communicates to you that you are damaging it, that you're doing something wrong. You have to change your life. You have to change yourself. You have to face certain lessons. And so the body gives you pain, gives you inflammation, gives you limitation of function, different symptoms. By taking drugs from the doctor to suppress pain, to suppress inflammation, you're telling your body, stop calling for help and suffer in silence. These pills don't make the disease go away. They just make you deaf and blind to that disease. That's all they do. The disease will continue developing in your body, continue destroying your body until the drugs stop working. They can't mask it anymore. And the disease have progressed far more. It could have been much easier removed before. But now you have to face a far more severe situation. So the drugs will become more severe. Now we are suppressing the immune system. Now we are taking chemotherapy or taking something else. And if you go that route, eventually it's the route of suffering, pain, destruction of your body, and finishing up in death, usually. Yeah. That's the easy choice. That's the easy road. Okay?
Yeah.
But then there is the right road. Human beings are lazy creatures. You know, laziness is one of the mechanisms that's programmed into us for survival. It's a very important mechanism. If it ain't broke, why fix it? Kind of thing. You know.
Yeah.
But what we need to understand, that every challenge in life that comes to you, whether it's a disease, or whether it's some unpleasant human being that is pestering you, or whether it's suffering of your loved one, you know, maybe illness in a loved one, or maybe there is a social problem, or there is a relationship problem, or something else problem. It's a lesson. You have to face it. Don't take the easy choice. You have to face it. You have to stop, observe, and think. Why? Why was this lesson sent to me? What is it I'm not getting? What is it I'm ignoring? What is it I'm blind to? What do I need to fix? And if you live your life that way, as a spirit, not as a body, we all need to understand that we are spirits. We need to live as spirits from that high, lofty position. That's where we need to look at the world from, not from being a body, not from being a little monkey, you know, sitting in a body. So if you work as a spirit, and if you think as a spirit, and understand that you've come to this world for a purpose, not just eat and drink and sleep and excrete, use toilet paper, and then die. You know, what was the point in all of that? No, you came here because your spirit had to get certain lessons, get certain wisdom, have certain experiences. You have to go through those experiences, and hopefully you will leave this material world wiser and higher. You will go to a better place than you came from in the spirit world. But many people, because they choose the easy path all the time, the easy choices all the time, they finish up dying and going to a lower place in the spirit world than the one they came from. And the lower it is, the further away it is from the Creator, from the source of all love and light and warmth. So these places that are lower are cold, they are dark, and they're painful. They're not nice. And as a spirit, you have to spend a long time there with not nice individuals who live at that level. That's what you need to understand. That's what the disease brings to you. It wants to pull you out of the level you came from and put you higher. So face it.
Yeah. I think when you are met with some sort of a diagnosis, you know, a severe diagnosis, I think at that moment, the person that you are right now symbolically has died. Whether you carry on the way you are and it leads to death, or whether you shed that old person, the person that got you into that position, and you reinvent yourself and you become a new person, and then you go on that journey. So whatever it was, you know, you can't get well in an environment that made you sick. So if you're not willing to let go of the person that got you there, it will take you to the end. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, many of my patients that went through the GAPS nutritional protocol, and they never leave, basically, because new things happen in life and they want to talk to you again. Many of them understood that if you want to be healthy, you have to produce your own food. The best food in the world is the one you've produced yourself for your own family, with love. You put the information of love into it and care into it. So people buy small holdings, they buy pieces of land, they move out of cities. Cities are not healthy places, never have been, never will be. And they become farmers. They get goats and they get chickens and they start gardening and they get bees, beehives, and so on. I'm one of those people myself. 12 years ago, we bought a piece of land here in Norfolk, and it was a very damaged piece of land, damaged by industrial agriculture for hundreds of years. There was literally no soil on the farm. There was no soil, no topsoil. It was destroyed, topsoil. So we have been working for 12 years, and nature is so resilient. It is absolutely amazing. If you work with it, and if you give it what it needs, it turns this place, that has been so damaged, into a paradise. Now we live in a paradise. And no matter what stress you might be subjected to while you're on the computer, you're working, doing something, you come out there to your chickens, to your turkeys, to your bees, to your cows, and all that stress goes woof, and you are filled with joy, just exuberant joy. And the kind of food you get, you cannot buy anywhere. Anywhere, no amount of money can buy that quality food.
Wow, that might be a good place to leave it. That was a great bit of advice in the end there.
I'm writing
unless there's anything.
Yes, my next book will be on the farming, because when we started, we were city people. We didn't know the first thing, how to go about it. We've learned, we learned, and we're still learning, but we've learned so much. And so I'm writing a farming book now for people like that, who want to start, but they don't know where to start, and they live in the city and they have no experience. So that's the next book that will come out.
Yeah, I'll definitely be reading that one. That's something I've had, that calling. It's a calling. That's what it is. You feel called to that to that type of lifestyle. And I think the thing is, and this is what blows my mind, you can buy food with chemicals in, which costs you barely anything, even though it's been manipulated and more time and energy and focus on it. But then to buy an organic, local version of that is so expensive. So they've priced us out of eating natural food that has less in it. So you can only go so far, and this is where I'm at with and then you start to realize, what, I know what the next move is. It's just, how do we get there? I'm still quite young, I've got time, but I think eventually that's probably where I'll go. So I'm really interested in reading that book. It might save me a few years.
Absolutely. Everybody can produce their own food. If you make vegetable beds on your useless lawn, lawns are deserts. They damage the environment. This is the whole, trimming the lawns and decorative bushes and all that. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for us, all of that. So if you would make vegetable beds instead of your lawn, and if you have a little bit of a back garden, have a few chickens, you're already producing your own food. You will have your own herbs, your own vegetables, and you'll have your own eggs, the best quality. So start there. That's the easiest way to start. And then slowly, if you're ready for it, the universe will deliver. You will buy a place where there will be land, enough for you, a small holding, and everything comes to us.
It's a beautiful way to end it. Thank you. Do you want to just sort of tell any listeners who haven't heard of you, which I'll be surprised by, where they can find you? And if there's, other than obviously this new book, is there anything that you're up to in the next sort of couple of months that you wanted to do a plug for?
Well, my website is gaps.me, gaps.me. You'll find all my books there, all the information. It's connected to GAPS training, connected to my blog, and you will find everything there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, that's a pleasure.